So you have started or looking to start a fashion business and are searching for fundraising ideas for your clothing line. So hi, this is Vishal Kali from Fashion Marketing, and in this tutorial, I'm going to talk to you about how to get funding for your fashion line. And we're going to cover 8 different ways you can raise money or get funding for your fashion. So we're going to talk about equity funding, debt financing, pre-sales, strategic partnerships, consultings, incubators, sponsorships, and crowdfunding. And for each one of those categories, we're going to discuss pros and cons. So let's get started. So let's look at number 1, which is equity financing. So equity financing can be done in 3 ways: angel investment, VC funding, or family and friends. So for this case, let's consider that you are either launching your first fashion line or you're launching your fashion tech company and you need money for your MVP and you're looking to raise around $200,000. So angel investors and family and friends make sense when you're trying to raise less than $500,000. VCs come into handy when you're trying to raise your Series A, which is at least over $1 million. So for this case, and each one comes with own pros and cons. So let's look at angel investment. So the pros of angel investment is you get immediate cash on day 1. So whenever you get a syndicate, the syndicate is usually multiple angel investors who are putting money into this pool, and each angel investor usually will put in between $10,000 to $25,000. So let's say if you're trying to raise $200,000, you will probably have a syndicate that has between 8 and 10 different angel investors who are going to fund your $200,000. So the pros will be you get immediate cash on day 1 whenever you sign up with the syndicate. Number 2, they provide expertise and connections. So make sure you just don't get any angel investor just because they have money. Try to find the one who actually has connections or who can open doors for you. So for example, if your goal is to hire like the best CFO or director of marketing or VP of marketing, or if you want to have your more like a SVP at Macy's to be part of your board of advisors, or somebody at Vogue to be part of your board of advisors, try to get angel investors who can provide those kind of connections that fit into your business model, right? And third thing is you don't have to pay them back, which is these are professional investors and they understand the risks. So if your company goes down or if you have to shut it out in 2-3 years, these guys understand. So if angel investors or VCs, they both understand that this is an investment and they can lose money. So even if your company goes down, you don't have to pay them back. The cons of doing money from angel or VCs is most likely they will require a seat on your board. Number 2 is they will take significant equity from your company. So if you're raising money for the first time for seed funding, and let's say you're trying to raise $200,000, you will probably try to get your evaluation of your company at $750 or $1 million. And typically for a $200,000 raise for the first time, you might end up giving 20 to 25% equity in your company. And that's a huge chunk of your company. So something to keep in mind, right? Third is they may or may not keep an eye on your operations and get involved in your day-to-day activities. And number 4, which is very critical, especially if you're trying to raise money from VCs, is if you as a CEO is not performing well based on what they are expecting, their expectations based on growth, revenue, users, whatever you set up in the beginning, if you are not meeting those expectations, you can be pushed out of your own company by the board. So this is something to keep in mind. Another way to raise money, let's say, as we talked about, if you're only trying to raise $200,000, is family and friends. So pros of raising money from family and friends is you can negotiate much better terms because you know your family, you know your friends. Number 2, it's a lot easier to raise money just with an idea without having an actual working prototype or actually working production line, because they're your family, they love you, they want to support you, and they understand this is your passion, and you might be able to get money a lot faster. Third is you can raise money much faster and don't have to do that much deep dive into your marketing plan, production plan, how you're going to acquire your first 100 customers to the same level as you would need to do for an angel funding. So the pros are, you can raise much faster, a little bit easier to raise money, and you can negotiate much better terms. The cons of raising money from family and friends is, number 1 is if your business goes down, you might still have to pay them. Number 2, if your business goes down and you have slower growth than what you expected, it could affect your relations, especially if the family and friend is investing money in you and let's say they have a son or a daughter who's ready to go to college. they can come back to you and say, hey, can I get my $25,000, $30,000 that I put it in you because I need to support education for my child? So these are the things that you normally would not think about, but they could definitely become an issue. And third is, you might not be able to rate a big round as you can rate through angel or VC funding. So keep these things in mind when you're trying to raise money through family and friends. But for your seed funding, when you're only raising around $200,000 to $500,000, I will recommend angel investors or family or friends might be your best bet. And then wait for VC funding when you're trying to raise at least over $1 million, and when your business model is much more solid, because they are going to ask you for those many details. So number 2 is debt financing. So debt is a loan you can get from banks, credit unions, line of credit, and there are pros and cons associated with debt financing. So first pro is it's comparatively easier to get money from a bank than getting money from investors. Number 2, there is no loss of equity. You will not have to give out any equity to the bank when you're taking money from it. Number 3, they will not ask you for a seat on your board. So you get to keep control of your board. You get to keep the equity as well. But the con is, if your business goes under, you will have to pay them back the money that you have actually borrowed from them. Number 2 is they would require some sort of collateral in exchange for the money. And be very careful when taking debt financing, and be very, very careful involving your family assets, because if you're not able to pay them the money back, they will come back your family assets. So that is a pretty big con when you're trying to break money through debt financing. So number 3 is incubators. So there are multiple incubators depending on where you're located. So if you are in Silicon Valley, for example, we have YC, 500 startups, there are a lot of fashion incubators as well. So if you are in the early stage of businesses, you have some proof of concept, you have some customers, then it makes sense to actually join these incubators, because there's a huge advantages to being part of incubator. The pros are they will open doors and give you connections that you probably could not get yourself. Number 2 is you actually get a stamp of credibility and authenticity, especially if you've gone through a credible incubator, and then raising money after that becomes a lot comparatively easier. And 3 is they have a really good alumni network that will be able to help you. So now your support system grows from just you and your small team to this huge people or alumni that this incubators has. And the way these incubators make money, so usually for about 5 to 7% equity in your company, they will give you between $50,000 to $100,000. So at least it gets you going and gets you off the ground. But the cons are you do lose equity in your company, because when they're going to give you $50,000 to $100,000, you will end up giving 5 to 7% equity of your company. But then it's a lot less compared if you go the angel or the VC route, because that's where you will end up giving 20 to 25% equity. Here is only 5 to 7. Number 2 con is they might require you to move where the incubator is. So if you have YC, your 500 startups, other fashion incubators all around the world in Paris, they might have a requirement that you have to join the incubator and go through the incubator's period of between 3 to 5 months, depending on which kind of incubator they have. So you might have to relocate to go through the incubator. So that could add to your added cost. So next is pre-sales. So from your customers, entice your customers with special incentive to get pre-orders from them. You don't necessarily have to utilize crowdfunding platforms for this, but you can take pre-orders on your own website. In example, if you're trying to sell a jacket, you can upload image of six jackets in 6 different colors and ask customers to pre-order, and if whoever pre-orders, you can give them 10, 20 or 30% discount. And state that the top 3 most voted colors of this jacket, or most voted, most pre-orders that you get for whichever jacket, those are the ones that would actually get manufactured. So this way you actually get some money in advance, the customers gets discount, and you don't have to manufacture 6 different versions. You can actually see which sizes people are placing pre-orders for and which color they're placing pre-orders for, and then you can only manufacture those ones. Another way to do is through retailers. But this would require for you to build a relationship with the retailers and require some sort of negotiating skills from your side. So typically retailers will pay you after the product sells. But if you build a relationship with them, you can negotiate them to get a deposit for your collection. But why would the retailer want to give you a deposit for your collection when you're starting out? So you can do in 2 ways. So if the retailer likes your collection, you can offer them exclusivity for the next collection that if they do a deposit now. So now if the retailer thinks you have a value, your collection is good, and they're the only ones who will be selling for your either this collection or the next one, giving them exclusivity will actually might make them incentive enough to give you order your sales or deposit in advance, or maybe at least pay you when you make your sales. Or you can offer them a free marketing campaign on your social page, and to bring them more publicity to the retailer. This could be beneficial. This could work a lot better if you are working with local boutiques, because usually local boutiques are not very good at advertising themselves. So if you yourself are a social media expert or you have access to bloggers, you can negotiate with the boutique that, hey, that if you give me a deposit in advance, or maybe at least you pay me the minute our product sells, I will get free publicity. We'll do an event for you. We'll get you free publicity through the bloggers that I know, or maybe I'm doing my own social media and I will talk about your brand, so you get free marketing. So look into these type of negotiations, and you can get pre-sales or money in advance or deposit from your retailers. So next is strategic partnerships with manufacturers. One of the biggest expense when you're creating your new collection is the fabric cost. You can mitigate the cost by finding out new fabric manufacturers in your area or overseas who are trying to get into this business or are trying to get more customers. And you can negotiate with them to give you either free fabric for your first MVP, which is minimum viable product, or your smaller collection launch, or you can get them at a much discounted rate, and you can have a conversation with them that, hey, if you give us discount for our first collection, we can sponsor you, or we can actually do events and we can actually talk about you on our social media, so they get free marketing from you. Or you can also have a conversation or negotiation with them that for our second, third, fourth collection, you will be our go-to manufacturing facility, so they know that even if they give you discount for your first collection, they will end up making money in the long run as well, and they will acquire a customer for a much longer period of time. So this also ends up working pretty well. So next is consulting. As a young designer, you're probably much more in tune with the latest social media platforms, how to use them, pros and cons, and you can offer consulting services to retailers, fabric manufacturers to generate some money. And it has dual benefits. You'll be able to generate money literally when you start working for them. And number two, you will be able to develop a relationship with the retailers and fabric manufacturers. And when the time comes, you can leverage those relationships to get better payment terms from both parties. Sponsorships. So major fashion cities often have competitions where designers can win cash prizes or can get sponsorship through major brands. So you have LVMH has a prize, Vogue Foundation, even WeWork offer rewards if you're working there, and you can actually get a certain amount of money. Fashion brands offer sponsorship for new designers. Find out which fashion brand resonates with your design philosophy and reach out to them. Another good way is go to Google and set up alerts for the word fashion contest or design competition or fashion funding, things like that. So when anyone mentions about those things, either on their website, in a blog post, you will get an alert, and then you can go check that which company is offering this sponsorship or this contest, and you can participate in it, and you can probably get the sponsorships or rewards. And the pros are, if you win those sponsorships, you win those rewards, you will never have to pay that money back. You don't lose any equity in the company. You will probably get good PR through these contests and companies, because they will publicize you. They will say, this particular designer won this scholarship, this sponsorship, and you will get a lot of PR through that. And there's hardly any con to it. The only con I could think of for sponsorships is the amount of money will not be $50,000, $100,000, might be between maybe $2,000 to like $10,000, but still something is better than nothing. And the last but not the least is crowdfunding. So Kickstarter, Indiegogo, their platforms are great for running crowdfunding platform campaigns. So these platforms are great for generating hype for your product. If your goal is to make money through your platforms, I would highly recommend run your numbers to make sure that, because with crowdfunding platform, you're raising money today, but you're promising delivery in either 6 months or within a year. So make sure you're incorporating that if the cost of your product changes, if the shipping cost changes, if you're manufacturing in overseas, the tariff is expected to change. So make sure you incorporate for those changes, could be like 3 to 5%. So when you're ready to ship the product to the customers who have bought your product through these crowdfunding platforms, you actually don't end up going in negative. This would be a great way to even launch your first collection at cost, because even if you don't make profit through this, And if it's done right, you can actually get a lot of hype and a lot of marketing through it. And then you can use this as a proof of concept that we have ran crowdfunding platform, we got these many customers, we did these many sales, and then you can use this information or this data, take it to angel investors and tell them we have already done proof of concept, we already have customers, now we need to get more and more production so we can get more customers, and it could help you to get to the next level for your angel investment. So as you can see, there are multiple ways to raise money for your fashion, or actually to earn money yourself that you can fund your fashion line. But please do keep in mind that raising money to investors is not always a good thing, because when you raise money, you're also acquiring multiple bosses who are going to ask you for your growth rate, your production line plans, all of this stuff, either every month or maybe at least at end of every quarter. So now if you wanted to become a fashion designer, you wanted to do your own thing because you don't want to be able to answer to anyone else, you wanted to be your own boss, be a little careful when you're getting angel investor VCs, because then you are actually acquiring a couple bosses who are going to ask you for all this information. And whenever you're signing with debt financing, angel investment, VCs, please do consult with your lawyer to make sure the terms and the conditions and all the stuff is in order the way you discussed in person, verbally, and that is the way it's written down on a piece of paper. So then you don't have any surprises with your investors or with your banks or with your family and friends and so forth. So hi, this is Vishal Kali from Fashion Marketing, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you have any questions relating to how to raise money for your fashion business, do leave them in the form of a comment and I'll be more than happy to answer. So thank you very much for your time and have an awesome day.